Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. We are. You know what? I heard this thing the other day, and they were whispering, hey. I got so pissed off of just hearing the whisper. It was like, it was an ad. It was like, hey, maybe you didn't know about the ad. I was like, yo, I don't fucking like that at all.
Like the right in your ear?
Dude, I hated it. I hated it. The fact I heard a whisper. I was trying to sleep. I was like, hey, maybe you didn't hear about this.
That's probably why it's there to
just to piss me off. Oh, dude. Hey, I don't know if you know about this, but it's horrible.
It's quite a way to get in there.
I know. And I thought about like the intro. I'm like, wait a minute. I do this thing where it's like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Running Bear.
It'll evolve.
Thank you. So, what's up, man?
What's up, man? You tell me.
What's going on, bro?
How you doing?
You know, I'm living, breathing.
Long time no see.
Thank you.
I feel like it's been a while since I've been here in the studio.
I know. It's coming along, ain't it?
It's coming along.
And we got like electricity.
We got electricity. we got
drinks.
Stuff to use the electricity on.
Dude, it smells great now.
It does smell great.
It smells amazing, bro.
It
was such an atmosphere, and it came such a long way. And the fact that we're here, bro, it just started with just one breath. Just one breath. Where it all started, one breath.
Quite insightful of you to say that.
Thank you. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. It was actually on my mind today. Something I wanted to talk to you about. Not necessarily an insightful piece, but breathing, bro. I've been trying to just work on my breath, my meditation. And then I realized, this is a question, man. Am I doing this absolutely right?
Breathing?
Weirdest question in the world.
Probably not.
Okay. Well, thank you. If I go up to anyone in this world other than myself, it's be like, "Hey, bro, how you breathing today?" So hopefully, like, it's good. Maybe good.
Usually, I haven't thought about it much.
All right, haven't thought about it. Okay, very natural. It's good. People breathe good. Maybe it's good. It's a weird question. Whatever it is, I've been thinking about it because I'm like, man, am I breathing right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I doing it all right? And let's talk about that, man. Let's talk about breathing. Let's talk about life, breathing, life. Because once you stop breathing,
in some way, those are both very interconnected with each other, aren't they?
I know. I was trying to throw out a pun there. Get it?
No, I get it.
I
tied it into you.
Little monk pun. Monk pun. Say that 10 times fast. Monk pun.
Monk pun.
But
yeah, breathing is life.
Yeah. So let's talk about breathing, man. So as I'm here, you're breathing, I'm breathing, right? We're doing this thing called breath, and is this right? It sounds weird to say. Is this right? Am I breathing right? I've never asked another grown man if I'm breathing right. So
I know, right? I mean, that's important. You're right, though. Like it sounds so kind of like rudimentary that we don't want to ask ourselves, are we doing it correctly or not? But usually we're not.
So I guess I'll be vulnerable here, and I'll say that I'm seeking help. Mm-hmm. I need help. Will you help me?
Sure.
Thank you, bro.
Sure.
What a real friend.
Got you, man.
What a real friend, a real brother, bro. I need help understanding breath, bro, because here's the fact of the matter. I'm on a journey, man. I'm on this journey, and this is just my journey, but I just want to be a better person, and mind, body, spirit. It's my goal, mind, body, spirit. And my goal, it's not that I'm not there. It's that I just want to continue to develop and evolve those. I started contemplating, man, I work out endurance, breath, heart rate beats really fast. I get really good endurance. I breathe less hard as I train that over time. I'm breathing, but I breathe better. My heart beats slower. My BPM is a little bit slower. But am I breathing right that whole time? I mean, I'm breathing. So first off, let me ask you this. When it comes to breathing, is there a system to breathing?
Okay, so
I'm sorry. Let me take a step back. Obviously, there's your lungs and there's like your organ system. Is there if you're gonna approach breathing, I'm an adult male. Mm-hmm. Does that change as a child to an adult? Is there a different process that you would do that way, or let's start as an adult, maybe work our way backwards and then our way back forward, if that makes sense, as to understanding breathing?
Sure. Okay, so let's look at it. Let's first of all look at it this way. All right. So before we go into the kind of energetic and all that kind of stuff, let's just pull this right onto the understandable surface level, right? If you look at the human body, there's actually, you would say, probably 4 areas or 4 even organs that we have that are deeply interconnected with the nervous system, right? We got our brain, we have our heart, we have our gut, our stomach, and our lungs. Very deeply connected with the nervous system, very impacted by it, and it can impact the nervous system as well, depending on what's going on. Out of those 4, the only one you can really immediately take charge over are the lungs. That's no coincidence. Now you can impact the nervous system directly through the lungs, the way you breathe. Now you can also do that through the stomach or through the gut microbiome, but that's a lengthy process and very important one, by the way, to also get involved in your understanding of how to treat the body well. But it is a lengthy process. But the lungs immediately.
Okay, so lungs immediately. But what when you say your stomach, like, is it just?
Well, I'm talking about the gut, the microbiome, the bacteria that live in your intestines.
Essentially affects your breath in your lungs, or your heart.
They have access to your nervous system. Like they can directly impact your nervous system.
So like fight or flight, it could trigger that.
They can choose. Depending on. I mean, that's another conversation for another time. But they have access to your nervous system. They can impact your chemicals, your hormones, the way you're thinking, everything, because they essentially want a certain input and they want to guide you to give it that input.
They being like foreign bacteria.
Foreign bacteria
that lives in your stomach. Or
pull that aside, lungs very immediately you can make an impact on yourself. So, not to get too much into the weeds here, but if you look at the autonomic nervous system, you have your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system, right? Just a quick breakdown. Your sympathetic nervous system puts you more into fight or flight, agitated, a little bit of an anxious state. A very important aspect of us because it helps us survive. It helps us kind of be on that edge we need to be to tackle an issue that might come in front of us. And if you take this back into a time of survival, if you saw a tiger or something, in the jungle while you're there, you need that kind of surge of alertness and that ability to really just figure out how to survive. You got to run, you got to fight, whatever you got to do. But it's an agitated state. And to be in that state for a long term has a toxic effect on the body, right? And then the parasympathetic nervous system is usually equated more to the relaxation, where you're able to kind of think a little bit more free and abstract, and you're not really in that fight or flight mode. That is the more favorable state for us to be in if we're looking at recovery and kind of, like I said, more kind of creative and expansive thinking and practices we want to get into. We want to be more relaxed in general. Now, the issue is that when we're living or we're going through life, kind of, especially in these times, we're almost always agitated or stressed or thinking about something, right? So we're kind of a little bit more dominant in our sympathetic nervous system than we should be. That impacts the breathing, right? So it has a loop effect that it makes you breathe a certain way, and that makes you kind of stay in that sympathetic nervous system state. So it's almost like a feedback loop we're getting into, and that is over time training us to have an incorrect way to breathe. Now, recognizing that is very important because we have to know that just because we are breathing automatically does not mean we're breathing in a way that's favorable to the system, right? And if you go into like the practices of pranayama and how yoga understood this, it was making sure that we implement a certain daily disciplines and practices and knowledge to understand what it is that we need to do with this breathing process to be able to function on an optimal level. And that's starting with just the kind of surface reality of ourselves and then going deeper and deeper into the dimensions of what is actually connected to the breath on an energetic level.
Gotcha. Okay.
So as a child, you're probably more likely going to be breathing correctly as the body has its natural understanding how to breathe. But then over time, we kind of learn bad habits.
As you were saying that, the first thing that comes to my mind, and you know this, and probably anybody else who knows me knows this.
I feel like I know what you're about to say.
See, you already know. I like energy drinks.
Yes, you do.
I like energy drinks. And right off the bat, I understand what caffeine is. I understand how caffeine gives your body a natural stressor. But I also understand that's an induced state. And if you induce that stress on there, because I like taking energy drinks, that's kind of weird, drinking energy drinks. But that stressor on my body essentially is affecting my lungs now. I'm thinking about it, which is essentially affecting my function based on my parasympathetic? What do you say?
Sympathetic or parasympathetic?
My parasympathetic system, right? Is it so? So essentially, I'm in this more fight or flight state. Definitely not relaxed and poised because I'm caffeine induced. So as I'm taking these energy drinks, I'm assuming my lungs are being altered slightly because I'm probably breathing a little more rapidly. My blood pressure is probably a little bit higher if I'm gauging it real time. So all these things are happening to me. I say all of that, right? Okay. So now that this is happening, this is just me. As I'm talking outside.
Not just you. There's a lot of people with caffeine addictions and some form of another.
Coffee, Adderalls, and whoever is doing.
Because we don't want the body has its way of speaking to you, and when it's exhausted and tired and needs rest, you feel it. But when we have something to do, we're looking for something to shift that, and then that becomes the addiction. I mean, we all know that caffeine's basically numbing our adenosine receptors, so we're not able to know how tired the body is until it wears off. That's a very unhealthy process in a relationship with the body, because we should never be tired. That should not be our golden standard of how we go through our day. You know what I mean? We shouldn't always be tired and relying on something. Right. Something is off, and that could usually be corrected with the breathing.
Absolutely. So that's my search to become a better breather and less caffeinated individual. Again, I'm a very flawed man, throwing it out there.
Aren't we all?
As I'm trying to figure this out through energy drinks and through my heightened state, if you will, my stress state, what's going on with my lungs, and how has that affected me, just in general? Like obviously. Well, let's assume that that's what's happening. Continue on. My body's under stress though, and my lungs aren't functioning properly.
Okay, so let's look at it this way. When someone is trying to really gain control of their mind, their body, and spirit, as you just said, in my understanding, and this is really, I think, an important avenue, why I'm so interested in myself in understanding, Prana Vidya, Pranayama, and things like that, which is like the study of the breathwork and what its implementations are. To me, there's so many complex layers that become obstacles and hindrances especially in our spiritual growth as we, try to continue and understand ourselves. To me, by far, the most effective and easiest and I would say you don't even need to know so much about it. It's through the breath. Through the breathing, you're able to make such a drastic change in the system, the mind, the body, the energies. Everything can be immediately shifted if you just gain control over the breathing process. You don't have to do so much. Like if you were really overweight and you want to, you have some hard work to do. I mean, granted, unless you're taking some kind of crazy medication or something like that, but if you're going to go through this process, like through exercise and diet, it's some hard work. And it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of knowledge you have to acquire and guidance you need to correct this problem that you have. Breathing, you don't need to do that much. You just need to do it every day. That's the only thing you really have to do is make sure you do it every day. And the exercises are usually very simple because what this does is we also understand, like this is also pulling this into kind of the Prana Vidya dimension of this. Through that, it is explained and is understood from very ancient times, the relationship between psychosomatic and somatopsychic kind of loop we find ourselves into. So psychosomatic, we're looking at how the mind or a illness of some kind in the mind impacts the health of the body, right? And it shows onto the body in some way or another. In some disease it manifests in some way or another. And somatopsychic is the reverse of that. Something in the body causes an illness in the mind. But you see how that's just a loop. Like it's just a loop. One goes into the next, it goes into the next, and we catch ourselves in this cycle of a back and forth, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. What is moving between these two? Energy, right? And it's the energy that's moving, or the prana. Prana is to put very short and simply, it's the vital life force that gives us the life that we have. It animates us. It is in our thoughts. It is in our actions. It is in our words. Everything is prana. It is the energy that moves through the body. Right now, we don't got to get into the complex network of all that stuff. Maybe a little later in the conversation. But understanding that the prana is the very life that you have. In fact, according to kind of yogic depictions, your body is not you are not dead, not until the prana has left your body. It's not the heartbeat. Usually that's how modern medicine, we determine whether the person has died or not. It's when the prana leaves. So prana is your life. And how do you charge and interact with prana predominantly? Obviously through food, through thoughts, through all these things, but mainly through the breath, through the breathing. So the state your prana is in is determined by how well you're able to manage and control your breathing system. Now, prana itself fluctuates between a spectrum, right? And in yoga, we call this rajas, tamas, and sattvic, right? Rajas being high activity. We can equate that almost to like an anxiety, agitated state. Tamas being dull, lethargic, and sattvic being that perfect in between. So prana functions at its best in a sattvic state. So we want to do whatever we can to bring this into a balanced state and to be able to control the ability to bring it into a balanced state. Now, understanding that this breathing process also is a process of understanding the prana, like developing a conscious relationship with it, and bringing it into a very healthy state within your body, you will shift so much without even knowing it. You'll shift the way you think, you'll shift the way you feel, you'll shift the way you talk, the way you perceive life. Everything will shift just by taking control of the way you manage your prana.
Shift how?
Shift? Okay. So when we think, again, I'm pulling this in accordance to yoga, it is prana that determines the way you think. As I told you, there's a spectrum, right? When your prana is functioning in a rajasic, agitated state, maybe caffeine induced, the way you think will change. You may not notice it. Nobody may notice it, but if you pay attention to it, it will change. You're a little bit more on edge, a little bit more aggressive with the way you're thinking, or it's not functional. It's not your best. It's not creative. It's not open or philosophical. It's just in an agitated state. And you can witness this. You don't have to, no one needs to believe this. It is very easily observable, right? Same thing on the other side of the spectrum. If you're tired or you took some kind of drug that's a downer, or you'll notice your mind's dull. It's just dull. You're not even thinking too much at all, but it's just low, and like we call it like low energetic. It's just not there.
Downers, yeah.
Downers, yeah. But it's that really balanced center where you feel clear. You feel like you have clarity over whatever it is you're trying to understand or contemplate. And that's a simple example of how it shifts. And this is an unconscious, for example, we were talking about the nervous system, right? The autonomic nervous system is by nature designed to respond to the environment, right? I use the example of a tiger. A tiger needed to shift you into your sympathetic nervous system. But now we're doing it to ourselves. It is our own thoughts that's the loop we're in now, is we don't need an external agency to determine the way our nervous system shifts. So now we don't need an external agency to determine how our prana shifts either. We are doing this by ourselves. And to learn how to control the breathing, how to control the prana, you now, by choice, get to determine where you set yourself, and then you don't allow these shifts to happen unconsciously. You become kind of more the master of your own system, and you get to choose, how do you want to live? Do you want to live in this clear, calm, peaceful, joyful, and creative state? Or do you prefer to be agitated? Do you prefer to be depressed or down? Up to you. And you'll most likely choose that calm, balanced, peaceful, joyful state.
Gotcha.
That can be learned and enhanced and induced by your breathing.
Gotcha. So proactive versus reactive exercises, essentially we would depict how you can maneuver your prana, but if you're reactive, then essentially your prana will maneuver you.
Yes. You become a byproduct of an uncontrolled and unmanaged energetic system you have.
Which can lead to things that essentially can hijack different parts of your system, like doom scrolling, for example.
Of course.
And if you're
doom scrolling will affect your prana. The way you eat will affect your prana. Everything will affect it.
And assume that you're like on some kind of medication, not say that all medication is bad, say you're on something that, you're taking yourself to self-medicate, or you're doing energy drinks and caffeine. So now you're kind of an altered alcohol, whatever it is. You're in a kind of marijuana, whatever it is. You're in kind of an altered state. In that altered state, then you take the stimulus that affects your central nervous system.
Yes.
Then you take the fact that subconsciously your breathing is already doing something if you're not aware of it.
Yep.
All of these things sound like a cocktail for a reactive situation of some sort.
Yes.
I don't want to say manipulation, but maybe like someone can market something to you, to your subconscious.
For sure.
Subliminal, maybe subconscious.
For sure. And the fact that we don't know much about this is where the problem comes in. Because if you knew about this, you wouldn't be doing, like, if this was general knowledge, it'd be very difficult to sell you something that's damaging the very thing that you need at its highest state. There's nothing more important to life than prana, right? Whether we know it or not. In fact, in yoga, we identified 5 different bodies that we have within our system. Our physical body, the Anomaya Kosha being one of them, the layer behind it is the Pranomaya Kosha, the body of the prana, right? And that is by far the most important one, because it's what gives life and vitality to everything that you are. This is the most important part of you, far more important than your physical body.
As you say that, I agree with you. I agree with you as you say that. But growing up here in the West, I'm also noticing that a lot of people put money before that.
Sure. I mean, they.
Here's the thing. I don't. First of all, for me personally, let me be very clear. Put your prana first, and don't put money above your prana health. That's just number one.
That's good advice.
That's. Let me be very, very clear to where there's no confusion there. Where they're not going to be like, "What's he saying?" Put your prana before your money, because it will attract your money. However, I feel as though a lot of things are pushing, bro, money, get this, get that, get that. Get a sense, focus on this, focus in. Where your focus goes, your energy goes as well. That's where your focus is, just where energy is. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. From your opinion, are you seeing something similar, or do you?
I think that's a very general reality that we're living in this time right now. Is the focus has become a very external. This is the problem, right? Everybody's focus has become on external things, like external realities, and money is still one of them. Money does, in some way, we can say, okay, it brings us security. It helps us, have a life that it's not always on the edge of, collapse in some way or another. But it is part of the external world in the sense that within our system, there must be an awareness of what's happening. Mm-hmm. Not everybody needs to go on this very vigorous spiritual path to discover the core of who you are. If it's in your interest, nothing else should be more important than that. Mm-hmm. And there are people like that live in this world, and maybe it is their path to do so. If your intention is just to live a good life, the best you can, have a family, do whatever you got to do your work, you're not that invested in some kind of, vigorous spiritual path, fine, but you should still understand your own system. Like this is the human body. You are a human being. I assume so if you're listening to this podcast. And you have these things within you. Now, if you were unaware of them before, that doesn't make it untrue, right? If something has been harming you in some way and you didn't know, again, doesn't make it untrue. Understanding these things, and this is the process of what yoga and all these things are trying to do. They're just trying to make you aware of what's going on inside. And when you become aware of that, life changes, right? So you want to know how you think. You want to know why you feel the way you feel, what's going on within the body, how the prana is interconnected. And the practices and all the sadhanas and all the things you do are not supposed to make you believe anything. Like when I say to someone, okay, prana, energy, for someone that has never even heard this word before, or as someone who has a conflict with the word energy itself because it's so general and vague and it's hard to put your finger on what it's talking about. Well, that's understandable. I understand that you might have conflict with that concept. And to them, I say you shouldn't believe what's being said, but you should be willing to at least undergo some practices and disciplines that may expose you to an experience where you realize it's real, right? That's all you really need. Once you realize it's real, well, there's nothing to talk about. Then all your decisions will change because you'll realize what an impact it has. You will know how much can be done within your system, within your life to really shift how you live. And that's not even mentioning all the, for lack of better words, superhuman capacities a real enhanced prana can unlock. And there's plenty of evidence of that at this point. You know, there's so many people who will display some very incredible human human feats that you'd be like, how is that even possible? And those, mastering the breath, because you, through the breath, you have so much access into the system. That's why I was saying earlier, look at how many parts we have in our body that are very deeply interconnected with the nervous system. And just coincidentally, the lungs, they happen on their own. It's like you don't have to think about it. You start breathing by yourself, but the moment you bring your awareness to it, you can choose the way you breathe. That's not a coincidence. There's some deep hidden wisdom in this reality. We just haven't explored this much in the kind of modern world. This was very well explored in the ancient world. In fact, to me, I would even call it almost a pet peeve of mine about when people talk about meditation and tantra and all these spiritual occult stuff. If you have not figured out how to breathe properly, manage your breath, touch the dimension of prana, you have no business talking about this stuff. There is no meditation if you cannot control how you breathe. I'm sorry. You are absolutely full of shit if you are saying that you have found deep layers of meditation and experiences if you have not understood the prana. If you have not mastered in some way the prana, please stop talking about meditation.
It's ironic for me because as you're talking through this, my first experience with my breath is essentially biohacking. I got biohacked because I was in sports my entire life and I was forced to do things that I just didn't really enjoy doing until I did them, and I eventually had my central nervous system and my lungs adjust. My mental adjusted. I was told to run suicides and run laps. Bro, I was out of shape. My legs hurt. I'm pulling hamstrings. It's uncomfortable. I'm sweating left and right. Like it's a lot. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm breathing really hard. I feel like I'm gonna cough off a lung. It's like I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. Then guess what, bro? I got fast. Then I could jump high. Now I can breathe. Now I can go from an endurance and I could outrun you. I could outfight you. Like you like it.
But your energy levels go up
my
too.
My energies are up, and I'm so calm. In fact, here's the thing. As you're breathing hard, what really showed me this edge, this one clicking moment, was that in that moment, when someone else is also in good shape and they tap out. When they tap out in that very moment, you see the shift. You see the glitch. And in that moment, you got it. You got it. It's done.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get tired. You've trained for it. Your endurance is high. And now now something else is there. There's confidence there. But as this person is breathing, you're both breathing hard essentially, but one's better than the other. The other one's calmer. They're calmer. The other one's trying to breathe. One's focusing on breathing. The other one is not, because he's already breathing and has been in that state a while. So now he's calm.
He doesn't need to think about it, or it just is.
He is so calm, or she is so calm in that state. The other person who is, as soon as I see that, it's over.
It's over.
It's over. And I know it's over. That thing right there, biohacking, just from being forced to do this thing in shape, and I got the benefits from that. Now, as an athlete growing up here in the West, I've never had anybody sit me down and say, you know what? You've been doing sports your entire life. Here's how you need to breathe. Not one time.
Yeah.
Not one time. I can't tell you how many sports I've played and how many coaches I had, how many weights I've lifted, how many laps I've ran. I've ran my entire life since I was 8 years old. At least
no one talks about it.
No one has talked about it. Specifically how to breathe. No one has taught me how to breathe. I just breathed. And I practice running and endurance, but I've never talked about the conversation of how to essentially breathe the correct way.
And on that, you'll notice there's a very bad habit people develop where they start breathing from their chest. everybody, like, somehow over time we just learn to just and then even worse through the mouth. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not. Now, I know there's kind of conflicting.
I feel like that's how most people.
I know.
People were probably like, "Bro, what are you talking about? I breathe like that now."
It's not. I mean, this is an ancient kind of understanding from Prana Vidya.
Teach me your ways.
You're supposed to, because look, if you look at the lung's kind of shaped like a triangle, right? The narrow parts at the top, the wider parts at the bottom. So obviously, if you're going to absorb more oxygen and even prana, it's going to happen from the bottom, more surface area part of the lung. Now, the diaphragm can either pull air, because if as you practice, you'll realize you can choose to pull air only into the chest. You could choose to pull air only into the bottom of the lung. It's up to you, or the full thing. But if you want to fill the lung entirely, you have to pull it to the bottom first. And if you want a good experiment at home, if you fill the chest and then try to fill the bottom, it won't work. Only if you fill the bottom first and then fill the chest, it'll work. There's a sequence to this, right? Now, I understand if you kind of look at current kind of science and research on this subject, it's not very clear if it makes even a difference depending on which side you breathe from, but this is science. I understand that. And I am almost positive through time we will realize there's a different thing. But when you go to the dimension of prana and prana vidya, it makes a big difference. It makes a difference because it changes the texture of your relationship with prana. And this is also something you can experiment. Breathe through your chest, hyperventilate. You'll notice you can give yourself anxiety. If anyone's had an anxiety attack, you'll notice it's just in the top of your chest. It's very tight. It's suffocating. And as soon as you pull it to the bottom, you calm yourself. The prana calms down. The energy in your body has a different texture to it. And there's also again, not a subject we need to get into the weeds of right now. There's 5 dimensions to the prana within the body called pancha prana, right? So activating the lower section with each breath gives you more dynamic. It gives you a more dynamic input of prana. It gives you a better absorption process of prana. This is, again, stuff you will experience as you practice. So learning to just train yourself to calmly breathe through the bottom of the lung, breathe less. We don't need to be breathing so rapidly. Calm. The slower you breathe, the longer you'll live. That's an age-old saying. You breathe slow, your heart rate is slow, everything is calm, sympathetic nervous system, prana is in a, as we call it, sattvic state. You will see transformation take place within you. It is in the nature of who you are as a human being to continuously enhance yourself spiritually, whether we realize it or not. This is a natural process that we have in the human life. We make this harder with our mind and our emotions. We create complexity.
I feel like I'm a naturally simply complex person.
We all are.
If you can help me with, say, I'm a numbers guy. I like numbers. Give me, if you can, some counts. 6 in, pause 2, out 3, in 5, pause 1.
Make it even simpler.
Awesome.
All right. Okay. So you have your lung. You can visualize your lung, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you inhale by pushing your stomach out, like, and exhale, right? Like not pulling your chest up, but pushing your stomach out when you inhale.
Forget my questions here. Simply complex. Out there, am I breathing in my nose? Out through my mouth?
Doesn't matter for the sake of this experiment. Usually, nose is always better.
Okay.
Oh, you should always aim to breathe through your nose for a whole nother area of conversation. But if you breathe through the bottom of your lung, pushing the stomach out when you inhale. I saw your chest move. Chest moved.
It's a big chest.
Weird moment to flex on that. So,
Jamie edited that out,
right?
bro.
Yeah, so we're breathing from the bottom,
okay?
Right. So imagine you're doing a 3 count coming from the bottom of the lung. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3. Then you pull it into the chest. Continue inhaling. 4, 5, 6, and then that 7th, you want to completely fill capacity. Right. That's your 7th. Exhale for 14 seconds. So you inhale
7 to 14.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale 14. So you're inhaling 7, exhaling 14.
When you're saying inhale, you're
Inhaling for 7 counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale for 14. Let it out. Take 14 seconds to get it out.
14 seconds to get it out?
Yes.
That's a long time.
I know. That's where control comes in. Because you have to jump in now, take over. Because you want to go, you want to let it out.
That's what I'm saying.
I know. Well, that's now you're not in control. You are in control when you prolong the process.
Just simply seeking to understand.
I know. So when you, I want to highlight
7
why.
7 and 14. Okay.
7 in, 14 out.
Okay.
Right. Taking the 14 will take a long, and obviously as you advance in your practice, this gets crazier and crazier because then there's retentions, the antar kumbhaka, bhaya kumbhaka, like the exhale retention, inhale retention. There's many layers and dimensions, and we can get into all that maybe even in a different episode. Just for the sake of time, we don't have to get into all that because we're talking about the entry point, right?
Okay.
The entry point is bringing focus to the breathing process. Exhaling longer than the inhale is a control tool. You're learning to control because you have to hold back. You want to let it out, hold back. Easy. Jump in and take charge. Same thing. Like you're also separating, like you're creating like a wave from the bottom up to the top. This feels clunky and kind of awkward at first. And as you practice, this is called diaphragmatic breathing, by the way. Is you're breathing from the bottom of the diaphragm.
Feels like Tai Chi.
Well, Tai Chi is another practice, but Tai Chi, to do Tai Chi, you have to first understand the breathing.
I feel like there's a, I guess what I mean by Tai Chi, there's a rhythm and a dance to it. That's just kind of what I'm getting to. There's
that concept for sure.
Yes,
you're bringing awareness to the breath.
Yeah,
Tai Chi is awareness to the breath.
Always in control.
For sure.
Always in control. Movements,
always in
everything.
control.
Yes.
You understand prana is movement. Breathing is movement. This is also important. You're bringing your attention and focus. This is a part where we have to understand. Prana is moved by your attention.
That's okay. That's a big deal.
Big deal.
That's a huge deal.
So when you're reading something in a book, you have prana attached to this book, and it is being absorbed. The prana is the energy that gives life to this process. So directing the focus onto the prana absorption itself is doubling down on the process. That's why to understand breathing, to understand it biologically, scientifically, is one dimension. And just why we have the body itself is one dimension of the 5 different bodies we have according to yoga. But understanding it through the prana, through the directing the attention itself on the breathing is really, really enhancing this process. So again, 7 in, 14 out. Just this tool is going to train you to focus more and more on the breathing, right? And then you can also play with that, slow it down, right? It doesn't have to be deep. It could be very thin, calm, slow. Learn to play with that process, right? And then there's so many practices that can, obviously there's more enhancement. There's Anulom Vilom, which is the 2 hemispheres. There's so many things we can do.
Do you recommend sitting up, laying down? Does it matter?
I think sitting up is better.
Back straight,
because laying down,
legs crossed.
Sitting down with your legs crossed as would be a better way to start this. If you can lay down, but the problem is laying down also can bring inertia, can make you tired, sleepy. You might fall asleep. We want to be conscious. Like it's much more. It's easier to stay connected and present and conscious on something when you're up and awake. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So you're able to. I mean, like I said, if you lay down, you're gonna get a little drowsy, right? I mean, then we go into another process, yoga nidra, prana nidra.
That's good. So as you're saying that, and I get laying down. So as you're sitting up, my first thought also goes to your chakras and your and the energy of that, because as your breath
energy
is going,
rises.
To your point, it starts with your prana, which also is in your root chakra, if I'm not mistaken.
Prana is in your entire body.
I'm sorry. Yes, I see your entire body, but like your sexual energy is a lot. There's a lot of energy there, which is your root chakra.
So what you're referring to right now is what they call the Kundalini energy.
Okay.
That's another whole Pandora's box to open with conversation. So I would say for this subject, let's push that away because there's so much around that. We're misunderstandings around that as well.
Are they like cousins? Like, is this somehow? I can't even say cousins. I just thought a word.
Let's,
cousins.
you know what? Just for the sake of
ugly neighbor.
Yeah, we can call them related because it's energy, right? They're just it's different forms of energy, and Kundalini is a much more intense, vibrant form of energy that lies dormant in your system, right?
Okay.
That's kind of just to put very simply. Now, it need not be ever invoked or awakened or enhanced in any way for you to live a life. You don't have to. But if you do, it's like turning up the voltage by a large magnitude into your system. Now, why it's an area, like I don't even think it's something people should be talking about so much because it gets people excited about it. And, you know, they kind of become, without having any basic foundation, without having any real understanding, especially without any proper guidance, they're trying to kind of like trigger this energy to kind of be released into the system, which is like pushing a very high voltage of electricity through wiring that cannot handle it. It's short circuit and it's gonna cause a problem in the body. Better psychologically, biologically, whatever it is.
Is this like if someone were to take too much? My first thought goes to if someone has too much estrogen or testosterone, essentially their endocrine system gets stressed out because it's too much, and essentially all of that.
In a sense, I think the best related analogy is just electricity going through circuits that are not prepared for that voltage. I think that would be the best way to understand it.
Okay, so from an energy standpoint, we shouldn't tax one system, but necessarily energy. But yet the energy is all. They're all different energy systems.
Yes.
Okay.
But you mentioned the chakra system. So like let's understand the chakra system is basically, as we know, there's the 7 points that go through the body, 6 in the body, the 7th above it.
Yes.
The chakra system is basically like, these are like the circuits. I'm going to use electricity as a kind of point of reference. These are like the circuits. Prana is the electricity, right? Now, this is flowing through. Now, it's not just the chakras. Through the body, they have something called nadis, which are kind of like the smaller wiring that are all connected to these circuits. They say 72,000 of these nadis through the body. This is what carries the prana around your body, right? This is the pranamaya kosha, the body of the prana. That's what it's made of. It's made of the nadis, it's made of the chakras, and the prana is moving through all of this.
Gotcha.
Now, just like physically, blockages, ailments, all these things can happen within the prana. Why are we doing pranayama activities and practices and stuff like that? We want to make sure we are keeping a hygiene, a certain cleanliness, a certain hygiene, a certain flow of this prana through the system.
Clean out the hallways.
If there's areas where the prana is blocked, the prana is stagnant, or whatever thing may be going wrong, there will for sure be issues in that body. Now, whether the body had the problem first or the prana had the problem first, chicken or the egg conversation, different for everybody. Somatopsychic, psychosomatic, we don't know. But the problem's there. The solution is going to be through the prana too. Like that's regardless of what came first. So to understand that this is how the prana moves through the body, then we again get more in tuned, we get a little bit more connected with what's going on in the more subtle dimensions of who we are. So that's why I'm saying the whole Kundalini process and all that.
It's a whole nother...
those are for advanced practitioners where you have really prepared the system for something much more advanced and much more intense. And for those people, the practices are there. Usually they're able to find the proper guidance, the text. There's enough information, but for the regular person, definitely not get into all that.
So not to discredit the knowledge or experience and wisdom that ultimately that deserves. I feel like that's just one YouTube search away.
What?
Just coming across that. If I go to breathing, I feel like I could come across Kundalini, energy. So I feel like it's like to not have that wisdom and not have that understanding and just even the explanation that you give, it's very easy to come across misinformation and try and learn something that is way beyond your scope.
Yeah.
You're trying to build a house with a knife and a fork. Sorry, bro, not going to work, but you're determined, right? So is that a state of where you think we're in now? Do you think... So if I like, all right, so there's clearly a learning curve. I guess that's what I want to establish. There's clearly a learning curve, and there's clearly a rhyme and reason and a process to this. So as I'm learning this, just right off the bat, learning to breathe, 7 in, 14 out. Start there. Sit upright. Got it. Where do I go now?
Now you develop what we call in yoga abhyasa. This is probably the most important step. Beyond that is as much as they can bring you benefit are secondary. Abhyasa is unbroken discipline with your practice. Nothing comes in between you and your practice, ever. No matter where you are, what you're doing, this is your sadhana. Sadhana being whatever kind of practices you're going to do, implementing to bring it into like a physical fitness. Going to the gym would be your sadhana if that was your goal. Be jacked. Same thing.
Mind.
Spiritually speaking, your sadhana are your daily practices that you have either doing yourself or your guru or some mentor has established for you to do. Abhyasa means this is always going to happen. Never under any circumstances does this break. So in for 7, out for 14, sure. Can you do this every day?
Well, that's a huge ass of discipline at a bare minimum.
At a bare minimum.
And I hate to even sound kind of shocked about that. I hate to say like, oh man, people have to do. I could do absolutely. I would love to, and I've been practicing that day in and day. That's me, and I know you were also the person to do that. But if we're talking about
it takes a lot.
Realistically,
the
bro.
Same way it takes a lot for a person to go to the gym every day.
That's
not
dude,
everybody has that capacity.
Do you know how many all-star January 1st weightlifters that I know, bro? Everyone's on the
I know
New
even
Year's
more
resolution.
people on the quote unquote spiritual path that have no abhyasa. They have no discipline. They have good words. They're very good at talking. They're very good at putting things together. They're good at regurgitating things they've learned or things their guru or someone has said to them. Very good. And maybe someone else gets value from the deep things that they say. Good for the people that get value from it. But you're getting nowhere. Knowing is not enough.
Okay. So let's just play devil's advocate. Say you are doing this day in and out. You're putting in the time. You're putting in the time. Do you talk about it ever?
I mean, depends on the context. Like I teach breathing classes, I have the students, I talk to them, and even them, okay, I teach, and I only teach them with the intention that they go and practice at home. And when you talk, not everyone's like, how'd the practices been? There's something happened. I always tell everybody, because everyone, especially the people I'm teaching, ask me, okay, what do I do at home? Give me these practices. And actually circling back to your conversation about Kundalini and stuff like that, everybody wants to jump into these esoteric, occult, kind of mystic practices, but you don't have the discipline to do things every day. I always tell someone, breathing exercises, if you're going to agree, never, ever set a goal for more than 5 minutes a day. Never, not 6, not 10, never. If you can show yourself that you can do 5 minutes a day for whatever months you agreed to, now we're talking. Now we can make that 30, 1 hour, 2 hours. But the 5 minutes, because here's the thing, it is impossible for you to sit and look yourself in the mirror, let alone somebody else, and say, I didn't have 5 minutes today. We talked about doom scrolling and you can be taking a shit, a shower. You could have shaved off anything in that day to give 5 minutes to sit on a chair and breathe. And if you couldn't, well, there's your problem. So looking beyond that 5 minute range and very simple breathing in and out, like you got to first open up that window and earn that belt of someone that will always do their practice every day.
Gotcha. So I respect that. I respect that mainly because I am personally the person to day in and day out. I'll do that. Absolutely. There's no problem. I got it. But because I'm that person, I realize it's not going to be for everybody. That might piss some people off. Cool. Good. Fuck y'all. Do it. Don't do it. Don't give a fuck.
Don't. I mean, it's fine.
Don't give a fuck.
Your choice.
We're going to do it anyway. So, but because of that.
Then don't complain about the things that aren't changing. That would be my only input.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because everybody who's doing it's already there.
Yeah.
So because of that, I feel as though maybe that's what do you do? Do you try to pull people? Because you said that there's this balance, and then there's like the dense side. Your goal is to be in the middle. Obviously, you're always swinging on this pendulum of energy. And do you ever try and pull someone up who's down?
I have learned not to do that because you you cannot force someone in a direction they do not want to go. People are very defensive and they're very attached to whatever issues and chronic problems they may have. This is also a very complicated thing you realize with people is everyone is looking for solutions to their problems that they're attached to. And to get involved in that, you somehow become the villain. You somehow become the one that's attacking them and you don't understand me. You cannot get involved with those people. It's just not worth it because it's the same kind of like, example people use it like, don't give your hand to someone who's going to, a drowning person who's just going to pull you underwater too. Right now, if someone is really willing and it's a subjective kind of case by case reality, but if someone's really just ready to do everything it takes and not ask questions, not challenge everything, not be a victim about everything, then of course, then it's not only something I'm going to do out of compassion, it's my duty. You know what I mean? Like it's something that you have to understand. That's why I even teach. I don't have any necessarily interest in being in that position, but when you become a yogi, when you take the initiations, it's part of the duty and the responsibility that you're given to serve what they call dharma. Like and for someone who learns how to breathe properly is in dharma. Dharma is your righteous duty to make sure everybody has the opportunity to experience and enhance their consciousness within them. Whether that be through religion, whatever it is, you stand as a defender, as a warrior to make sure that is never gone from the world. That is dharma. And it's not bound to one religion or one faith. It is just to make sure that this is a world where that is always an opportunity to everybody. And you'll always fight to defend that. So teaching people how to breathe, how to manage themselves, how to meditate, this is dharma. Right. So it's my duty. I consider that my responsibility to this world. And when someone around me genuinely wants to know, I don't do that out of kind of I do that out of duty. And I to someone like that, I'll always be there to help. I don't charge people actually to teach right now.
I was going to ask you that as well because that's a huge piece. That's a huge piece of value that you're giving people. I'm very grateful to even sit here and kind of pick your brain about it because I think that's extremely valuable. Like you're making my life better, and selfishly, I'm taking all of this and I'm going to
it's not my knowledge. It's I didn't come up with any of this.
Well, selfless guy and humble guy. I know
you have to what you're talking about is a real reality because. This is also where I see happens is people kind of like take these yogic principles and concepts and use them to enhance their image in people's eyes because they have some desire to be this figure. And everybody's breathing. Breathing is free, right? And it's available to everybody. To teach someone how to breathe I just have a conflict personally with asking someone for money to teach you how to breathe. It's your lungs. It's not my air. It's not my practices. I didn't invent any of this. I'm just channeling to you. And I do that out of an obligation, out of a service, out of a duty. And I know that it's such a valuable tool that I truly everybody should know about it. And if you don't want to do it, that's on you. But I know such a simple change in someone's life can transform everything. We would not even believe the depression and the anxiety and all these things that people are suffering from, the drastic decline that would show on the charts if people just started to implement how to breathe properly. You don't have to tackle these things from the complex manifestation that they became. Just shift the prana and it will change everything. And I'm very happy to help someone with that.
I love that. I love that, and I could see that, and I genuinely feel that from you. And I love that you are taking initiative on it before anybody ever said, "Yo, I have to pay you to do this," or "You have to do this." In fact, for me, I kind of look up to you in that regard, because it's because you're doing the one thing that I think is probably the most valuable thing in this world, and that is to have service for others outside of your ego of things that you want.
I agree with that.
I think it's amazing. I think
that's important.
And you're not even doing that for one person. You're not two people. Since I've known you, you've done a lot of classes. You've done a lot of classes, and the wild part is I'm seeing opportunities open up for you because of that. Because of the value and the genuinity of those sessions, of you just genuinely want to help people. I think that's what it's really about. But I also think that's where real value comes from. because you're not jaded. You're not jaded for money. You're not jaded for someone else's influence or a political something or whatever the reason people are maneuvering information, lies and statistics, whatever you want to call it. It's a genuine thing of wanting to help people. And I think that right there is really important. And I think it's really amazing what you're doing because it's also involved in a community. Dude, you're helping so many people, boys, girls, old women, children. You're helping people of all walks of life learn this practice that are better in their life. And then you're giving these pieces of advice and asking for nothing in return. Dude.
You know, I mean, I appreciate that, first of all. But I just want to, like, be clear. The way I see it, and this is genuine. I see it as they're doing me a favor. I really feel that way because, as I said, it becomes your obligation, it becomes your duty, and something you should be very adamant on constantly be in service to Dharma, and you need to find ways and opportunities and avenues to do that. And when people are willing to sit, they're willing to listen, they're giving me an opportunity as well. They're also giving me an opportunity to learn and get more involved in it, because as you teach, you also learn, you know, and it's important that when you gather something, you share it, right? You know, my guru gave me a very good example of knowledge one day in a class. And he said, when you get knowledge from somewhere, you have to think of it like you've eaten food, right? And it's sitting in your system. And when you teach, it's like getting it out of your system. But if you don't remove the food you ate from your system, it sits, and it's like constipation. It becomes septic. And what the thing you absorbed itself that was supposed to nourish you becomes toxic.
Oh, I like that.
So you have to flow.
I like that.
There has to be an in and out. It has to inhale and exhale. You took something in, you give something out. So when I sit with people and they're willing to listen, I mean, I look at that as an opportunity for me too. An opportunity for me to also learn, for me to also understand it deeper. As maybe I never thought about something deep enough until someone asked me a question in a class, and I'll think about it. I'm like, that's, as I talk them through it and walk them through it, I'm also able to put it on paper for the first time for myself. Even though I understood it, I just never put it in that example. So I really look at it like an opportunity, and I see the value in people, and I also think that especially when you give people a free class, there's something to it, because I'm more interested in convincing somebody of its value and utility than I am in getting something out of it. If I were to sit you down like, hey, give me $100 and I'll teach you how to breathe, you may come in skeptical, and you may not have some life-changing experience.
100% skeptical.
100%.
But this dude better have like a projector.
I better leave here. I better leave here like Buddha. I must be enlightened for this $100 session.
Guru better be there with you,
100%.
Right?
Congratulating me on my enlightenment, right? That's what you want to. That's what you're expecting. Yeah. And now I'm put in the position where I have the obligation to impress you with, right? Already off on the wrong foot. There's already a conflict with this interaction. But if you're sitting with someone's like, hey, I'm willing to give you my time and effort for free. Yeah. Well, parties are like, well, why would I do this at all if I didn't think there was some value to you in this? Like, what if I'm sitting here with my own time, my own energy, my own effort? At least let's get rid of the skepticism. At the very least, if someone's willing to do this for free, nor am I asking you to join a cult, nor am I really doing anything that's on those lines. I'm really just trying to share. I'm really trying to create some kind of value, and there must be something in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it for free.
Well, and there is, and I think you're walking in your path of. You're walking your path, your mission, because you're doing that and you're helping millions and millions of people. You're just naturally doing that, and the crazy thing is, that's the karma of it. It spreads. It's a spider web of duty and service, and those people are going to teach someone something, and they're going to teach someone something, and that's going to affect so much in this universe just by you showing up and by doing that genuinely, because you genuinely want to. And even sitting here and having this conversation with me, dude, pouring into me, thank you, which I genuinely appreciate. I'm going to use these for myself and also for whoever else wants to learn. Why? Because it's not about me either. I'm just the guy in the vessel which happens to be your mirror, the other guy on the other side. Hey, what's up, crazy neighbor? Also, the
Crazy
guy,
neighbor guy.
crazy neighbor guy over here. But also, I also want to do something very similar. And I believe that has to come from a very genuine place, and it has to not be skewed by money and not be skewed by anything, and definitely in a place of service. But again, not about me, but it's all about the mission of it. And as I'm learning to do breathing, I'm learning there's a level of education I lack. And I have an ego, I have an ego, and sometimes it's like, all right, do I want to ask for help? What's it look like if my mind starts going? What does it look like if I ask for help? Will this guy think I'm not reputable or credible of being able to do that if I ask for all these questions, right? And let's let it go. Because I think the dumbest thing is not asking for anything. If you have a question, ask, because I think
For sure.
that right there is courage and bravery, and I think that's the fastest, direct way to get knowledge. I think someone will genuinely reciprocate that if you're just genuinely curious. They want to pour into you, because if they have the experience and they see someone who's also curious, absolutely. You're looking for something, and I think the right people will have the guidance and the responsibility to also pour into you if it's genuine and you're seeking.
Yeah.
So as we continue to seek it, as we continue to do this, we start with breathing. Breathing is, we get to this place where when do we feel that we can move on to this next step? Like, obviously we're practicing. We're doing 5 minutes a day. Say we do it for 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm practice. At what point do I say I need to educate myself or take this next step of start doing the switch up between nostrils and then calibrate or is that just, does that come along with it? Or
So, for the sake of the way we, I guess, structured this conversation, we're speaking to people that are very kind of new and have not really, had much exposure to this. Someone who has maybe is listening to this and they have familiarity and they're probably already found those practices. The internet has everything you need. That's about anything, not just breathing, everything. Now, yes, we can double down on a few, but to me, and in my experience and what I've seen, the biggest factor here is learning that daily I will not under any circumstances fail myself to do this practice. You can add to it, but I'm telling you that is the hard part. That's what surprised me, actually. Like, when I started to really study this, when I started to crack open the books and get into the practices and go to the ashram and really go through these rigorous kind of just diving really deep into this dimension of knowledge to understand the prana in detail, because it was fascinating me as well. I just wanted to understand this more and more because it was also unlocking experiences within me. I was really understanding. I wasn't just learning about something. I was learning about myself. And as I was learning, as I was practicing, I was seeing it. I, through myself, saw, and everybody else, if you don't understand the importance of every single day, without fail, a practice that's implemented, it doesn't matter how many things you know about. Even myself, when I knew so many practices, so many things, so many different techniques, alternate nostril and Bhastrika and Kapalabhati. There's so many, and even specifics of like different dimensions, Surya Veda. There's so many things you can learn of what you can do with the prana, but I wasn't doing it. I just knew about it. Mm-hmm. And then I'm looking around me, most people aren't actually doing it every day. There's a very few people I've met in my life that never fail themselves. Very few people, and they're usually extraordinary people. That's what's so fascinating to me. You don't meet somebody that's do even very basic exercises, even that one we just talked about, 7 in, 14 out, something just diaphragmatic breathing. Every day, extraordinary human being. The mind changes, the perception of life changes. We won't do it every day. We'll say it. If I tell you, you ask me 5 minutes every day, sure. Then if I ask you in a month, everybody has something to say. I did too. I understood. It's only when I made the shift. It's only then will you really see the benefits.
My feeling goes directly to I know we're talking about breathing, but I feel it's like so familiar to my experience with investing. And I feel like it's the same exact thing. And as I started investing, the only way I could articulate investing to people is it's got to be a habit. it's almost like working out. And if people haven't worked out, I can't assume that they're going to understand the discipline of investing. And if they don't understand the discipline of investing, you're not going to understand the discipline of anything. And that discipline piece is so relatable in all these different areas of our life that we deem important. But yet we see them seep through. I think finances are important. I think
They are.
I think as much as you breathe 5 minutes a day, equate that to $5. If you can invest $5 a day, then you're investing. Some people never invest because they always think they have to have $1 million to start, $1,000 to start. If you start with $5 a day, over time that will compound. Over time, that turns into 10,000 to 50,000 to 100,000. Oh, that sounds crazy off of $5. Yeah, absolutely. If you do it day in and day out, eventually that grows. Eventually, that's exactly how it works.
You can look at pranayama the same way.
I look at it that way. I look at exercise that way. So it's all very much correlated.
Gym's the same thing. If you don't go frequently and consistently, you can't go once a month and expect anything. Don't even waste your time.
So as we talk about breathing, breathing's a little more fascinating because people could make an argument, but bro, we're talking about money. I got bills and I got kids and I got... Breathing's free.
A lot of people free, and it doesn't take long.
Will you do it every day?
No one said do it for an hour.
You already do it.
That's what I'm saying. If you ask me an hour,
that's the mind.
Sure, go for an hour. I would say you're wasting 55 minutes unless you're doing it every day. 5 minutes every single day. Agree to that. Commit to that. See how long you can get. Can you create a 3-month streak, 4-month streak of 5 minutes every single day? Then we're ready for advanced practices, because the advanced practices don't matter either if you're not doing it every day. So first you got to get that part down, and that's always the hardest step.
Why?
I don't know why. I don't know what it is about the mind that
friction? There's a friction that doesn't
it's
want
friction. It's also maybe it's just too easy. Maybe that's what it is.
You reject it, self-sabotage it.
We're rejecting it because like, okay, that's also the thing. We're like, okay, how is this going to solve my problem? How is that going to fix me? We don't want to. We're not willing to accept that our complex problems can be fixed by such a simple solution, because it makes us feel stupid. We feel stupid that we're in such a whirlpool of complex emotions and thoughts and depression and anxiety and so much going on inside of us that we just can't barely bear the existence that we're living. And just breathing correctly is supposed to fix this? How stupid are you going to feel? But we're not willing to go through that. We want medication and therapy and all this stuff.
Yep.
It must be a complex solution. Otherwise, the problem doesn't feel valid. So the 5 minutes a day of breathing, we just discard. We're like, nah, that's not going to fix this.
So the irony of that, and then we replace it with something that is completely destructive and justify it and lie to ourselves.
We got to understand, man. Breathing is life. When we inhale, it's symbolic of accepting life. And when we exhale, it's symbolic of surrendering to death. And we need to know this is a balance. This is a relationship. We're living on this current exchange constantly. And one day we will have to surrender our last breath, right? We're never going to live with an inhale, but one day we will live in that final exhale. And that kind of, maybe that philosophical mindset can understand this is a relationship, and deep, intimate, raw, and real relationship with life. Oxygen, prana, it's life. And when we develop this kind of sensitivity with our practices, that's what will be enhanced. It's not just breathing alternate stuff like that. We are changing our perspective of life. We are observing life. When you, like I said, if you don't eat for a week or so, you'll get a little now of 40-day. I don't know what the actual limit is of, like, at some point you will not eat long enough where you'll die. But there's a long time you can go without food, right? Water, what is it, like a week? I'm not sure, but it's not too long, but
not too long,
but still long enough.
Yeah,
you can maybe get at least a week, maybe a couple weeks, and then you'll die of dehydration. How long can you go without breathing? You got a real short window of time.
No, not long at all.
Minutes. You have minutes.
Yeah, because then you need oxygen to your brain, and your brain.
So you're gonna die in minutes if you don't breathe. So you see, we're always on this edge.
Yeah.
And the breath is the direct link to that. So this is, again, not coincidence. Like the prana, the relationship with life. There's no coincidence on how on the edge we are with the breathing process. And it's a subconscious automatic activity normally, but bringing it into an experience, understanding it, and just seeing and feeling and tuning ourselves into it, it's just a byproduct of this is our perception of life changes, our mood, everything. It's just a byproduct. It doesn't need to be the goal. I need to cure my depression with breathing. Just forget all that. Just stop thinking about it. Don't even complicate it. Don't create any conflicts, any expectations. Just do it. If you need some scientific evidence to prove yourself, look it up. I'm sure ChatGPT or Google, you'll find plenty of shit on anywhere on the internet about why, regardless of which way you want to look at it. Spiritually, plenty available.
Time you're done, your 5 minutes is already gone.
5 minutes already gone.
Just like that. Just breathing naturally in, looking up, trying to
None of it matters
yourself.
unless you shut up and do it.
Yeah.
Silent, do it. Then, and again, I'm going to emphasize the point I made earlier. Please do not fool yourself into thinking meditation or any of this stuff is going to happen if you cannot learn to control and manage your breathing. So if you're going to practice meditation, you better be practicing breathing. You've mastered that. Now we can talk about meditation. Other than that, you are sitting there and you are spending whatever time you're spending meditating, lying to yourself. And instead of spending time lying to yourself, maybe spend time breathing so that you stop lying to yourself. Because what is meditation? If you meet somebody that says that they're a deep meditator and they're advanced and they don't have breathing, have them explain meditation to you. They're going to sound like this is gibberish. That kind of idea of understanding the breathing is more important than going into any of these spiritual avenues. That's the door. That's the key.
So that's the avenue. Start breathing, and that's a very well put delivery, man. Start there. Start breathing. Start with 5 minutes a day. 7 minutes in. I'm sorry. 7 seconds in. 14 seconds out, and do that 5 minutes a day, and just start there.
And just pay attention to it. Experience
day in, day
it.
out.
Your whole focus should be on how the inhale feels, how air feels going through the nostrils. Observe your lungs expanding. Observe the bottom of your diaphragm. Just feel what it is to breathe. Tune into that. Give yourself a good amount of time to just go into an observation process. That's important. Then again, we can actually start breathing exercises, right? Until then, no.
Okay. So for all of our listeners, myself, take a deep breath.
And then let it out. That's all one must do.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Running Bear.